In this video, I'm going to share the 7-step method that helped me get my first 100 Skool members. But before I jump into the method, I first want to talk about the 2 main levers that will impact your growth. The first one is traffic. In order for people to join your community, they first have to find it. So this could come from social media, paid ads, or from the Skool platform itself. Then the second lever is conversion rate. Once someone finds your community, they're going to look at your about page and then decide whether to join. So in order to get more people to join your group, you either need to increase your traffic or increase your conversion rate. And you'll see as we jump into the method that each of the steps I followed helps to increase one of these 2 metrics. All right, so the first thing I did was to start making content about a topic I was familiar with. In my case, I've been building social media pages since I was 14, so I started making YouTube videos about how I did that. And I didn't get very much traction at first, but I kept making videos and I paid attention to which content performed the best, and then I doubled down on that. And by doubling down on the high-performing content, I was able to build a small audience. If I had been smarter, I would have started looking for additional ways to monetize sooner, but since I was young and naive, I was focused only on increasing my AdSense. It wasn't until a couple years later that I realized I was playing the game on hard mode by not having an offer. So once I realized this, then I started looking for additional ways to monetize. There were lots of ways I could go, and I agonized over the decision for months before I eventually decided to start a Skool community. But even after I made that decision, I still didn't feel ready. I told myself I needed to wait a few more months and then I would be ready to start my community. So I kept putting it off until one day I was watching a Q&A with Max Pearson and someone asked him whether he should start a YouTube channel first or if he should build his YouTube channel and his Skool community at the same time. And Max's answer surprised me.
Yeah, I would just build both together, honestly. No, I would build both at the same time.
I still didn't feel ready, but after hearing Max say that, I decided to stop putting it off and finally get to work on building my community. And I can safely say that is one of the best decisions I ever made. Because if I had waited to start my community, I would still be at 0 right now, instead of having over 100 members. The truth is, I tend to overanalyze everything, but when I do that, it actually makes me progress slower because I don't take enough action. I've found that if I just get started and then figure things out along the way, I typically progress a lot faster this way. As I started my community, I already had a small audience, so I knew exactly who the community was for. But in order for people to join, I had to make that clear on my about page. So the first place I did this was in the name of my community. My content helps small creators grow and monetize their audience, and the community is a place for them to gather and get help from both me and from each other. So I named the community Small Creators to make it super obvious who it was for. I also specifically called this out in the description by listing 3 types of creators who would benefit by joining. The goal was to make this as clear as possible because if there's any uncertainty, people will either just not join, or if they do join, they may be disappointed because it's not what they expected. So rather than appeal to everyone, I only tried to appeal to the specific person I wanted to join. Then after doing that, I made it clear why this specific person should join. So I've got a whole section here that lists out all the benefits someone gets for joining. And the idea behind this is that people want an idea of what they're getting into. So clearly explaining all the benefits is going to make more people join. That's why the list is structured the way it is, because it shows both the features and benefits that someone gets by joining. For example, if I just said, you get access to Small Creator Academy, but then I didn't explain what that is, people probably wouldn't understand why that's helpful. Same thing with live support. That could mean a lot of things. So it's helpful to give a more clear explanation of what that means. All right, these first few steps have all been important, but I believe the next one made the greatest impact on my conversion rate. I made the community free, but only for a limited time. And there's a couple reasons why I did this. First is that I had never run a Skool community before, so I wanted to get some practice before I started taking people's money. This allowed me to figure out the platform and get some feedback so that when people did start paying, it would be a lot better experience for them. Then the second reason I did this is I figured people would be more likely to join a paid community if there were already people inside. Think about it. Would you join a community that had no one in there? It's not much of a community, is it? But I didn't just throw up a free community and hope people joined. I created urgency by promising the first 100 members free lifetime access. This incentivized people to join right away because they knew if they waited, they would have to pay. By the way, if you're thinking about starting a Skool community, I am more than happy to help you get set up. You can either join my group and I will help you there, or if you use my referral link that I'll put down in the description, I will add you to my group for free and then I'll still help you. So if that interests you, I'll put those links at the top of the description. All right, we've spent a lot of time talking about conversion rate, so now let's talk about traffic. I mentioned earlier that I started this whole process by building an audience on YouTube. My channel had around 6,000 subscribers when the community launched, and then I also had around 4,000 followers on X and 175 members on my email list. However, instead of an elaborate launch strategy, I decided to gradually roll out the community to my audience. So the first thing I did was send an announcement to my email list. I wanted to reward these people for joining my list, so they were the first people to know about the community and they got first dibs on the 100 free spots. It's kind of funny though, even though 175 people got that email, only one person joined the community from that. The next thing I did was add my link to my YouTube About page, the description of each video, and as a pinned comment on each video as well. This had a little more success than the email, getting me up to 6 new members by the end of the first week, which is pretty impressive since I didn't make a full-on announcement on YouTube, I just added the link. Then about 2 weeks after launching, I got accepted into X's creator subscriptions program and I got an idea. At the time, I had been taking a break from X, but I figured this was a perfect time to come back because getting approved for the subscriptions program takes forever, and I knew that making a post about it would get a lot of attention. So I made a post about it where I basically said, hey everyone, I just got approved for subscriptions, but instead of subscribing to me here, just join my Skool community because I'm way more active there. And by the way, the first 100 people to join get free lifetime access. Sure enough, the post performed well, but I wasn't really sure how many people would actually join from this. So I was pleasantly surprised when this post got me 15 new members and quadrupled my member count overnight. So after launching on each of those 3 channels, I had around 20 new members in my community. After that, I made sure to add the link to all my bios and then mention the community in my content, and the members started trickling in. At this point, I knew that if I continued on my current trajectory, that I would eventually reach 100 members. But I wanted to get there faster. So I went back to the drawing board to think of what else I could do to make this happen sooner. When I first created the community, I just wanted to get it up and running as soon as possible. So I had just added a simple image that said the name of the community on my About page. But as I looked at other communities, I noticed that they all did something differently. The images on their About page helped back up the text in the description and convince more people to join. So I made a slight change, and instead of just posting the name of the community on the About page, I changed it to say, learn how to make money on social media. And surprisingly, as soon as I made that change, my conversion rate increased from 20% to 30%. So I think the takeaway here is pretty similar to what I mentioned earlier. Don't feel like you have to get your About page perfect from the start. You can improve it as you go. Doing this helped me get results faster than if I was to try and make everything perfect before I launched. Then after making this change, I went back to making content, and about 2 months after the launch, I hit 100 members. Since then, I've changed my group to paid, and I actually got 4 paid members within the first 2 weeks. So I think this strategy worked out pretty well for me. That being said, if you need help starting a community, don't forget my offer from earlier, or if you need help getting traffic to your community, click the video on screen, which will teach you how to build an audience.